apologies for starting just a little bit late. We were waiting for some of our key folks to arrive. And so everyone is now here, and we are so thrilled to have all of you with us today. Look at this gathering. Isn't this amazing? So just about 6 years ago, we were having a very similar event on the other side of town as we opened Acushnet Commons, which was the Women's Institute's very first ownership project that we were going to keep with us for the long term. And I can tell you from almost the day that those doors opened, the Women's Institute was so excited about what was going to be our next project in New Bedford. And we are so thrilled to be before you today with this beautiful property now housing 17 of 19 families and many of our service provider partners moving in as we speak. And then, of course, to have all of you here with us to formally dedicate and welcome everyone is just the icing on the cake. So I would like to start off first with my welcome and then also to introduce our mayor to formally welcome you to today's festivities. We have had the pleasure of working with the City of New Bedford for close to a decade now at this point, and what a wonderful partner and supporter they have been. And they are a key part of this project, not only in the fact that this was property formerly owned by the city, but also just by nature of putting significant home funding into the project, and then just every time we had a question or an issue, they were there to help us solve it. So with no further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Mayor Scott Lang.
Thanks. This is a great event. The reason it's a great event is because it follows up our original great event here, which was the groundbreaking. So it's always terrific to come back, and it's about a year later or so, and celebrate the opening with a ribbon cutting and begin to reflect on what this has meant. There are an awful lot of people to thank regarding this project. I want to start by saying that this was an effort that involved the entire city government. This was a piece of property, a 100-year-old school that has served a couple of different purposes, but always educational purposes, and then was abandoned and became part of the city's inventory of property. The city council voted to turn it into surplus property. It went out to an RFP. The RFP was handled by planning. The RFP was handled by CDBG, the procurement office. So the city government really worked hard to make sure that this would be a terrific project for the city. But then the other layers of government certainly have been involved dramatically, even before the Women's Institute for Housing and Economic Development identified this property as one that they thought they could do a great job with. And it was our state delegation involved not only in lobbying for this property and other properties in the city to receive appropriate funding from HUD, from our state housing department. And I want to point out we have, and I know we'll hear from in a few minutes, Senator Mark Montigny here. I don't know if the other members of the representatives in the General Court are here at this time, but the fact of the matter is that takes an awful lot of work on the local and state level. And then it goes to the federal level. And we've worked very closely with HUD on this particular project, federal stimulus money directly related to work by our congressional delegation. So Congressman Frank, who I want to let you know is listed on the program, is unable to be here. I want to convey his regards, A, and B, his congratulations for this tremendous project. And I know he was here for the groundbreaking. But Congressman Frank, and then at the time, it was back a ways ago, Senator Kennedy, and then Senator Kirk, Senator Kerry certainly, and Senator Brown, who all have had a hand in making sure that the federal government was able to participate in this project. So the end result is pretty simple. We put a project out to an RFP. We get back a tremendous proposal. We're building on the tremendous success of the old Kenyon Campbell building. We have a great partnership again with the Women's Institute for Housing and Economic Development and North Star Learning Centers, as well as other partners. And this school, which represents this community, this city, but this community, is now turned into a housing and a learning center, a community center for 19 families. And that is a change of life for 19 families, which means hundreds and hundreds of families and people throughout this community will be impacted by this. And it's extremely important. This is an anchor piece of property. We lose our anchor pieces of property, our hubs within a neighborhood. It is a bellwether for decline in a neighborhood. So this is a great success story. We really appreciate it. The other thing that I would simply say is that we have many, many opportunities in this city, similar anchor buildings. Some school buildings, some buildings that are historic, and we absolutely can't think of our city without developing those buildings to seed our neighborhoods with those particular quality projects that not only provide jobs, but then great quality housing, and then the imagination comes in as far as how can you also use this building to better our city, and in this case, North Star I know will do a fantastic job with it. So we're very excited about today's ribbon cutting. We know this lifts the quality of life of everyone in our city, and we thank you for that. Now there are a couple of people I want to recognize, and I'm just glancing around the tent today. First, I want to recognize every citizen that's here today to celebrate this and thank them, because I know each of you day in, day out are doing great things for the city. I know we have some public servants here today that I want to recognize. Ward 5 Councilor Jane Gonzalez is here. I want to say hello to her. I know we're going to hear from Senator Montigny on behalf of the delegation, and we may have others come in, and if they do and they'd like to share the mic to congratulate you, we would love to do it. Also, Ann has been tireless in advocating for improving the quality of life for our children in our city, the families in our city. I want to thank her very much, Ann. It's great to see you. And then Barbara Fields is here. She's the administrator from HUD Region 1. It's great to have the administrator here. Barbara, if you come up, sit down. We're happy to have you. And then I want to thank Pat Sullivan and his crew, everyone involved who's done great work on this project. So thank you very much.
As the mayor just said, we are very privileged to have had funding from the American Recovery Act to launch this program and give it new life. We were one of several projects a couple of years ago that was just stymied in the water. We had received all of our funding, but like many other projects, couldn't find an investor for our tax credits. And then the ARA initiative came along, and here we are. And we were so proud to also have the chance to bring that federal stimulus money to New Bedford as well. So obviously, Congressman Barney Frank was a huge part of that and has committed his life to this community. And we were so disappointed to hear that he at the last minute could not join us because he was definitely planning to attend. But we are very privileged to have from his office Inez Derlay, who is going to share some of his remarks and his congratulations.
This is what you call pitch hitting. I'll do my best. Thank you and good morning, everyone. Again, as everyone has stated, the Congressman had to take an earlier flight to Washington, D.C. Such is the life of a congressman. I think he's in midair as we speak. But I know he wanted to be here as he was a year ago for the groundbreaking of Ingraham Place. And on his behalf, I want to congratulate the Women's Institute and especially Ann for this initiative in creating a beautiful and multifunctional place here in the south end of New Bedford. I do not have to tell you of Congressman Frank's passion and dedication for affordable housing. This has been his priority all his life in public office. And projects like this that incorporate private and public resources are always projects he supports wholeheartedly. Neither one can do it alone and make it affordable for the residents of a city like New Bedford. It is a collaboration where everyone benefits. A neighborhood is revitalized by the renovation and use of an old historic building, and residents have affordable housing. In the area of affordable housing, NeighborWorks has a 30-year track record of providing just that and more. We are fortunate to have them establish an office in New Bedford through the Neighborhood Housing Services of South Shore. This agency will provide housing and foreclosure counseling to area residents who are struggling to keep their homes. This is an issue that we are all regrettably too familiar with for the last few years. Navigating through the paperwork and phone calls with banks and servicers is stressful, to say the least. I know the folks at Neighborhood Housing Services are caring and compassionate and will counsel and guide applicants through this process. I am happy to know that Jackie Pina will be working out of this office. We have worked with the Congressman's office with Jackie in the past in trying to help constituents with foreclosure problems. She is dedicated and determined, so folks should definitely seek her guidance if they are facing this difficulty. Thank you also to Robert Corley, Executive Director of Neighborhood Housing Services of South Shore, for establishing an office here in New Bedford. On behalf of Congressman Frank, I want to welcome Hilary Marcus and her staff to New Bedford and thank her for her support and the big check she's bringing. We always like to see those, right, Mayor Lang? I like to see big checks. I think you will all agree with me that these funds are being put to good use and our taxpayer dollars coming back to a community where they belong and as an investment in the future of this neighborhood. On behalf of Congressman Frank, thank you to the developers, architects, engineers, laborers, city employees, city, state, and federal government for making this possible. Congratulations to you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As we talk about our federal leadership, it is no less critical to also have the support of the Commonwealth. And we have been so privileged to have Senator Montigny as a staunch supporter of our initiatives here, our organization, and definitely this community. And as we have branched out into other states, I can tell you in all sincerity, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is one of the best places to take on initiatives of affordable housing. It's desperately needed, but definitely supported also here, which you don't always have the chance to have both. So Senator, please, thank you very much.
Thank you, Lonnie, and to you also, Ann, and all the folks at the Women's Institute. I have so much to say, and you want to hear so little because you're here to celebrate and you're here to take a tour, so I'll find somewhere in the middle of that, and if it rambles too far, the mayor will give me the eye. But a few things need to be said. First, how pleased I am. I represent today and express not only my own strong feelings about the project and the goals of the project, but also the partners that put the project together. I also express it on behalf of the entire legislative delegation. When we do things, and for me, I had the great privilege of not only chairing Ways and Means, but then immediately going to chair capital bonding. So it's fun when you spend most of the day reading about all the bad economic news over the years and studying what the rating agencies are doing well and not so well, and putting together term sheets and doing all this capital bonding work. It's wonderful in the end when we so often get to come home to see Councilor Gonzalez and the mayor and folks like Pat Sullivan and say, we've got resources for you. And it's not just housing, it's economic development, it's cultural development. The list goes on and on. I would say one of the most exciting aspects of my role the last several years working with the delegation on capital bonding has been, as I said, to see the fruits of it in so many wonderful projects here. That wouldn't happen without the organizations like the Women's Institute for Housing and Economic Development. It wouldn't happen without the Waterfront Historic League. It wouldn't happen without experts like Pat Sullivan, without passionate local officials like Jane Gonzalez and the mayor. So ultimately, the legislative delegation is just a partner that works and fights not for our fair share, because if we believe, or if you believe as we do, that we've had a disproportionately lighter share, the only way you make up for that gap is you make sure you have a disproportionately greater share in the present and going forward. And we've done that, and this is the result. So let me close by telling you why it's so exciting for me. It's not just because 19 families will live well and comfortably. It's not just because North Star Learning, that does fabulous work, Maria and Bob and so many others that are here, you know how we feel about the work you do. It's not just because of all the financial and housing consulting that families in the neighborhood will get. Ultimately, in the end, it's because we are being better custodians of this great architecture. If you don't know much about the history of New Bedford, the beauty of the city, for those of you from out of town, you don't even need to read it, although we encourage you, because it's second to none in this country, actually. But you can live it in the present. So have your lunch downtown, go by some of the cleanest beaches on the South Coast in the city, that's unique, and you'll see a living history. Throughout the decades, we have not always been, or those that preceded us have not always been, good custodians. The beauty of New Bedford is, under so-called urban renewal, when some of the most beautiful architecture in the world was torn down, or at least in our world, in this relatively young country, and yet we still have hundreds of buildings that are being preserved, that are saved, or are worth saving. This is one example. It's simply recycling the past and saying that it's not worth tearing down to build something inferior just so we can put a new label and a new ribbon on it and say we did something. It is so much greater, and really the sum of all of these parts in New Bedford are even greater than the whole when you look at it. It's truly phenomenal that we are this blessed to live in this beautiful community and be part of almost, it seems, on a daily level, taking an old building and making it returning it to its past glory. So for me, it's exciting on many, many levels, not the least of which is simply being good custodians for this beautiful city. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator. Unfortunately, we received news this morning that the Undersecretary was not going to be able to join us after all today. Stephen Garbalho is the acting secretary in the programs that govern what we do here. And we are so privileged to have such a long-standing relationship with the Department of Housing and Community Development. This project actually has 3 different funding sources that were awarded through their state home funds, the Housing Stabilization Fund, and the Affordable Housing Trust. And we are so disappointed not to have him with us today. However, the Undersecretary, Barbara Anthony, is going to be speaking a little bit later as we have some wonderful announcements and news with some of our partners. So she has agreed to share some of those remarks with you at that time. So luckily, though, we at the last moment was also informed, though, that our HUD Regional Director was going to be able to join us today. Barbara Fields is somewhat new in the position, and as with everything else that we're talking about today, we could not offer this housing and this program if it weren't for the assistance of HUD. There are significant operating subsidies that are a part of this project, and one of the banner pieces of the Women's Institute is that we want to make the deepest affordability possible for our residents, and that is done through a partnership with HUD and other organizations such as that. So it's our pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you and good morning. What a beautiful, beautiful day to be in New Bedford. Although I was here just last Friday in the rain and I came back because it's a great city that I am rediscovering in my new role, which is now 6 months old today. So I'm glad to celebrate this anniversary of being at HUD. Prior to that, I spent 20 years in Rhode Island, which is where I was this morning at a similar event. I was at a former Seal Test ice cream factory, which they have just converted into housing for the former ex-offenders coming back into the community with services in the middle of a neighborhood so they can be contributing to the community. And I left before they served the ice cream to join you because I wanted to get here. But I think that here in New England, the federal government, as I represent HUD, we do our work only with partners like the people here under the tent, starting with your mayor. So thank you, Mayor, for your leadership. We just met a week ago, and he's already grabbed me to New Bedford twice, so I'm thrilled to be here and to meet his team. But really, it's in partnership with an organization like the Women's Institute, which actually Many years ago, when I lived in Boston, Anne, I worked at the Land Bank and was a partner with the Institute in some of your earlier developments in the city of Boston. So I'm well aware and have followed from a distance the terrific work that's being done, and now is taking this building and making it a contributing part of this neighborhood, so that 19 people will live here in a neighborhood where there are shops, where there's schools for children, and not too far from a beautiful waterfront. I'm sorry I was a little late, but those are other federal funds rebuilding the highway down there. and I got a little turned around, but the local police officer, so the police are in the neighborhood as community members, and there are services here, and these families will be able to establish their lives. For me, with HUD, housing is just a starting point. It is not an end point. The end point is people being able to raise families, live their lives, contribute to the communities, have good jobs, be with friends and family. This is the starting point. The path to economic opportunity begins at home, and I'm glad that we could be part of this. I didn't see Deborah Boatwright, but I know NeighborWorks is here. They're another great partner. Thank you. The state. I'm sorry that I didn't get to see the congressman. He is all over the place fighting for us, so thank you for his work and his efforts. And I just have to point out Richard Staples, a friend of mine from Rhode Island, so I guess we're all coming to where it's happening in Massachusetts. Thank you, New Bedford, for welcoming me, and I look forward to getting a tour of this fabulous renovation. This is what we should be doing. This is smart growth. This is the future. Thank you.
As many of you know who have been with the Women's Institute over the years, our organization is about partnerships. There is very little that we have done that we've done on our own. We have always had the value add of wonderful partners across this state as well as in Connecticut. And that is no much more evident today than here with our wonderful 4 partners for this project. North Star Learning Centers is going to join me at the mic in just a moment, but we also today welcome Southeast Regional Network to Ingraham Place, the South Shore Housing Development Corporation, and the Neighborhood Housing Services, who you'll also hear from in a few moments as well. Housing has to be more than housing. So while we have established this for 19 families, there's also so much more that's going to be available to these families, to this neighborhood, and to this community. So 10 years ago now, I believe it is about when the Women's Institute and the North Star Learning Center started working together on Acushnet Commons. I cannot ask personally or professionally for a more dedicated partner and friend as that organization and their leader, Maria Rosario, has been. So without further ado, let me turn it over to your local folks.
Good morning and welcome everyone. When the Women's Institute approached us about partnering up with them again, we were delighted to hear that the building was located in the south end of New Bedford. Expanding services to the south end of New Bedford has been something that we've wanted to do for a very, very long time. So having a home in this neighborhood is a dream come true for us. We hope to provide the kinds of services that not only the residents in the building would benefit from, but the community as a whole. In addition to that, I want to establish strong relationships with the local partners so that collectively together we can better serve this community. Before I introduce the 2 people who will be running the programs out of this building, I have a couple of thank yous I would like to say. Thank you to my staff and my board for all your hard work. I really appreciate it. To the South End community for embracing us with open arms, and to everyone who supported this project. A special thank you to Mayor Lang for believing in our vision. Pat Sullivan from the Office of Housing and Community Development for always being of assistance to us. I appreciate you, Pat. Joe Booth from J&B and Architects for including us in every step of the design and creating a space that's conducive to the work that we want to do. Thank you, Joe. And last but not least, my Ann from the Women's Institute, who is the project manager. And thank you for staying true to the integrity of this project, for providing families with a home that is respectful and worthy of who they are. Thank you. And now I would like to introduce Marlene Barrows, Director of Early Education and Care.
Good afternoon. This truly is a celebration. First, I want to say that this is an elementary school that I attended, and to see the transformation is wonderful. The families and children have housing that, when you go for a tour, is beautiful, and in an area that is needy of recognition. The area where I grew up in, and sometimes we don't look at the South End as important as some of the other areas. So the second is that our school age program, after 10 long years, will finally have a beautiful, beautiful home. And we are so excited, once all our furniture is in and the children are in, to provide children from the community with the very, very best environment. As far as the outside, they'll be able to have a garden, and we thank the women from the Gardens program that will be coming in to be working with our children and helping them to learn about nutrition and just how food is grown, and also offering our children the best possibly education and safe environment that they so deserve, because they are going to be our leaders of tomorrow. Thank you.
And now I'll introduce Richard Carter, who's the Director of Youth Services, and he'll talk about the youth programs that we'll have here. Richard, you have a minute, because I know you love to talk.
I'll be very brief. Actually, I just want to say just a few things. As Director of Youth Services, being with North Star for over a year now, and working with my staff, providing, working with some of the families and youth to provide a quality program. This gives us an opportunity to, it's such a nice facility, it gives us a chance to provide a state-of-the-art, unique facility where our staff can offer a supervised family visit program, a chance to come to a safe, secure place to reunify with their families. Our family visitation program works with parents that have lost custody of their children. So this project gives us an opportunity to provide them, again, with a safe, secure, with some dignity, so that they can reunify with their families and get their lives back together, get their families back together. So we're just happy, my staff, we're very excited to have this here in the South End, and be able to just offer quality programming. North Star goes above and beyond. It's you know, Call of Duty. So again, myself and our staff, we're just excited to be a part of this project and to be rooted here in the South End. I'd like to again thank the mayor and Ann and everybody that had their hand in this project completion. And with that, I'd like to close. Thank you very much.
One of the very exciting pieces of today is not just that we're opening this property and have families and nonprofit organizations moving in, but also just what is happening for those nonprofits right now. As you just heard from North Star, some of their existing programs as well as new programs are going to be housed here. And one of our newest partners, Neighborhood Housing Services, also just recently received some very exciting news of an opportunity for their program and for the community of New Bedford. So with that, I'm going to turn over the microphone to Robert Corley, who is the Executive Director of Neighborhood Housing Services, to share some of that news with you.
Thank you, Lonnie. I'd like to first congratulate the Women's Institute on this fantastic project, and we're so grateful to be a part of this ceremony here today. I was looking
forward to meeting some of my new neighbors here in this facility, and especially Maria. I don't know where she went, but this morning when I walked in and I finally met her, I thought, well, geez, this is a great opportunity. So I thought, and right away she pulled me aside, very privately, and said, "Listen, I need to speak with you." And I said, "Oh boy, already a one-on-one here in the corner." And she says, "Your fly is down." So I said, "Okay, that's what being a good neighbor is all about." Anyways, I'll be very brief. And I checked before it came up. At Neighborhood Housing Services, we're all about partnerships that create positive impact in the neighborhoods that we work. And this is certainly a great example of what success looks like. In order to have meaningful impact, you must have strong partners on many levels, from residents to local businesses, city and national government, especially in these difficult economic times where sources are very, very low and the community needs are really, really high. So NHS has partnered with another community development corporation, South Shore Housing, to share this office and pool our resources to effectively and efficiently provide much needed services to this community. I'd like to especially thank Mayor Lang and the Community Development Office here in New Bedford for their support of this partnership and the foreclosure and financial education services it will provide not only in this neighborhood but also in the city of New Bedford. This also would not be possible without national support. Neighborhood Housing Services is part of a national network, NeighborWorks America, of 250 community development corporations across the country that are just like us. We can't thank NeighborWorks enough for their continued support of our goals in the southern Massachusetts region. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Hilary Marcus from NeighborWorks America. Hilary is the management consultant for the Northeast region and works closely with NeighborWorks organizations just like ours throughout Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Connecticut. Hilary currently serves as the region's Massachusetts State Coordinator. Hilary is committed to education and excellence in community development. She has initiated and designed multiple district-wide trainings and learning opportunities for NeighborWorks organizations. We are very excited to have her here today with us to celebrate the opening of this new office. I am proud to introduce our longtime friend, Hilary Marcus.
Good afternoon, and Barbara Anthony and I just gave each other a glance and wanted to thank you, Maria, for doing what you did earlier, so we didn't have to do that. I'm very honored to speak today at this great event, and congratulations to the Women's Institute for Housing and Economic Development on this grand opening of a much-needed housing and community resource, which you've heard everything about. New Bedford residents will access key services for their families here. I'm also here, and I want to speak about the grand opening of Neighborhood Housing's Homeownership Center in New Bedford, which is born of successful collaboration with the City of New Bedford and South Shore Housing, as Rob just mentioned. Neighborhood Housing Services, or the NHS, has a history of excellent work, not only in Quincy, where they began their successful expansion to Brockton 4 years ago, and today really marks the strategic expansion to New Bedford. So all of this work over the past 30 years is really to be applauded. NeighborWorks America has noted the need for expanded services in New Bedford for several years, but we must rely on our NeighborWorks organizations to actually make that happen. As you may know, NeighborWorks America is chartered and funded by Congress and charged with promoting reinvestment in our nation's cities, towns, neighborhoods, and also rural areas. Congressman Barney Frank has tirelessly shined the light on New Bedford as one of those places where federal resources invested in affordable housing, homeownership education, and financial counseling will make a difference. So a little bit of context for those of you who might not be as familiar with NeighborWorks America. As Rob said, we're made up of approximately 250 community organizations around the country, And last year alone, the National NeighborWorks Network assisted more than 180,000 families in more than 4,400 communities nationwide. So today we have events going on like this, probably in other communities. It's really a whole quilt that we sew throughout the year. Since 2010, our affiliates have assisted more than 37,000 individuals with home buyer education and counseling. And I want to acknowledge the hard work of the counselors and Brian Moriarty and his staff and Jackie, who will be here doing this work. Without you, this could not happen. Again, since 2010, our affiliates have preserved more than 5,800 homes from foreclosure or default and assisted 4,000 home buyers to purchase new homes, even in this economy. So that national network is made stronger through the work of Neighborhood Housing Services, which is one of our star affiliates throughout the country. And bringing the Homeownership Center concept to New Bedford is bringing a one-stop shop that makes buying and maintaining a home possible for many consumers. This approach also makes it easier to reach out to customers with special financial, cultural, and/or language needs. On October 13th, I was pleased to attend the 30th anniversary of neighborhood housing. And for all those years, the NHS has served low and middle income residents of a growing region in southern Massachusetts. Today, we're proud to be part of this piece of the story. So on behalf of NeighborWorks America, I'd like to invite Mayor Lang, Congressman Frank's legislative aide Inej Drolet, and Rob Corley, the executive director, and other staff of the NHS who would like to come up to present this check, which is what you were referring to. So if you'd like to join me, that would be great. Senator, thank you. Okay. So as you can see, this check is from NeighborWorks America for a 3-year investment totaling $300,000. You want to hold that side? For the work of the Neighborhood Housing and South Shore Housing. And congratulations to the NHS staff, the board, all the partners here today, and most importantly, the citizens of New Bedford. Thank you. Yep.
Thanks, Hilary. Okay, I have the privilege of introducing Barbara Anthony, the Undersecretary of Office of Community Affairs and Business Regulations. Barbara has been a huge advocate for a lot of the foreclosure counseling services that we do. She also oversees the Division of Banks, which has been funding our foreclosure counseling services throughout the region, as well as our homeownership work. And she's also sponsored statewide sort of foreclosure clinics where we've seen thousands and thousands of people over the last 2 years across the state. So I'd like to introduce the Undersecretary, Barbara Anthony.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. I know that I'm one of the few things between you and refreshments and a tour, so I will be brief, and I'm not going to be checking the attire of anybody in this room. I can tell you that. But I appreciate what you did. Where is she? No, congratulations to everybody, the Women's Institute, to Ann, and to Lonnie, and to Mayor Lang, and Senator Montigny, and Director Fields, and to everyone here. This is a fabulous, fabulous accomplishment. I'm proud to be here on behalf of the governor this morning. As you all know, the Patrick Murray administration is committed to investing in affordable housing all across the Commonwealth, from the Cape through Pittsfield, Holyoke, and out to the more rural parts of Massachusetts and the western part of the state. The Office of Economic Development, of which I am a proud part, really does work tirelessly on projects such as this, but there isn't anything quite as wonderful as this certainly not this morning here in New Bedford or anywhere on the South Coast. This undertaking, the grand opening we're seeing this morning, this is the result of a lot of hard work from folks on my end of the aisle as well, the Department of Housing and Community Development. I know that Undersecretary Tina Brooks was here about a year and a half ago for the groundbreaking and was thrilled to do so. And Steve Cavallo, who's unfortunately got called away this morning, unable to be here. So I'm happy to have the baton passed and to say that our Office of Economic Development, Housing and Community Development, and our state ARA office, we're proud to be involved in making this investment and this wonderful event happen today. One of the things I do, as Robert said, is we oversee the office of the Division of Banks here in the Commonwealth, and we have been working with groups such as Neighborhood Housing all over the Commonwealth. And what we do is we bring together homeowners who are facing foreclosure and lenders, people they've never met until that time, for the first time, where they can sit down and actually try to modify a loan, the kind of thing that Neighborhood Housing tries to do every single day for hundreds of people right here in this community and elsewhere. We have brought together approximately 4,000 homeowners across the state, together with organizations such as Neighborhood Housing, and we're very proud to do that. Just want to mention a couple of things, and to support you financially as well, as we will continue to do, because you really do God's work here. We're driving down, I heard on the news that the president's announced that today that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mae are going to loosen their requirements for homeowners who are underwater in terms of helping them to refinance. There have been some very tough requirements now for the past several years that haven't really helped a lot of people who need help. These are people who are paying their mortgages every single day. They're getting up, they're going to work, but they're very underwater. We don't want to see them slip into the chasm of foreclosure. So now some of those tough requirements have been loosened, and we expect that mortgages that are now held by Fannie and Freddie Mae, we're going to be able to help millions of people around the country. And this morning I'm calling on banks, national lenders who hold mortgages, because Fannie Mae and Freddie do not hold all the mortgages. I'm calling on those national lenders who hold individual mortgages where those homeowners are underwater, where the mortgage is worth a lot less than the value of the home, but they're paying their mortgages on time. Follow the lead of the president and do the same thing. We need to really, put an end to the misery and the crisis that we're seeing in this country in terms of foreclosure. Enough is enough. So this is a great step by the federal government. The governor supports it wholeheartedly, and we're calling on the private lenders to do the same thing. So with that, I just want to say congratulations again to everyone, and we certainly look forward, Bob and my good friend Brian Moriarty, and continuing to work together with you all in many years ahead. Thank you all.
Barbara, thank you so much. Now I really feel the pressure. I'm the only thing left between you and refreshments and a tour. So thank you, Barbara. So there are a few things that I am so privileged to stand in front of you today to talk with you about. The first part is actually something that has been so exciting for us at the Women's Institute in the next phase of a partnership with one of your local organizations. As you may know, Whale has been our historic consultant both on Acushnet Commons and on Ingraham Place, and have just been a vital component of our team to make sure that the properties were placed on the historic register, that we were able to secure tax credits for the properties. Just a wonderful, wonderful partner. So aside from that, though, as you may or may not know, Whale has been part of the leadership of Grinnell Manor here in New Bedford, which approximately 16, 17 years ago was created as affordable housing for seniors, as a low-income housing tax credit project. So over the past year, Whale and Women's Institute have been in conversations about how perhaps to transfer that property into ours as we continue our work with Acushnet Commons and Ingraham Place. And just a few weeks ago, we were able to finalize that. And I wanted to ask Lisa. Lisa, where did you go? There we go. come up with me for just a second. It seems like all the firsts for the Women's Institute happens here in New Bedford. So we built our first ownership property with Acushnet Commons with Wales Help, and now our first preservation project to ensure the long-term affordability of a project also has happened here. And so, Lisa, I just wanted to share with you and with the everyone here today is that this community was so privileged to have you here 20 years ago when there was an old residence, that was starting to become in disrepair. There was definitely a need for seniors who needed an affordable place to live. It's not part of Wales' mission to run affordable housing, but there was no one else to step in, so guess what they did? And for close to 20 years, you have made that a home for 17 people. And so in front of everyone here today, we just wanted to honor that charge and let you know that we're going to pick up the baton and make sure that that stays affordable for those residents for a long time to come.
Thank you. As you may or may not know, for the past 50 years, Wales has been saving historic buildings in New Bedford. And what Lonnie talks about is the Grinnell Mansion on County Street, which before Wales came along for 30 years had been abandoned and neglected. And Wales, in partnership with the Interchurch Council of New Bedford, decided to take that project on and to do what others thought would be impossible. And we're able to restore the building and bring it back, and it has been a wonderful place for low-income elderly residents to live for a long time. So as you walk through the building today, you will see that preservation is not just about buildings. It's also about our history. As Senator Montigny said, it's also about the character of our city, but it's also about the people and our quality of life. And so we are so pleased to be involved in great preservation projects in New Bedford and to partner with the City of New Bedford and Mayor Lang and Pat Sullivan from the Office of Housing and Community Development, and partners like the Women's Institute with Lonnie and Ann, who is truly amazing. And we really enjoy that very much because we know that great preservation makes a difference in our city, and we're committed to that, and we will continue to be committed to that for the next 50 years. And we thank you all for your support, and we look forward to working with you on your next project in New Bedford. Thank you.
So of course at an event like this, the list of people to thank is very long, but also very, very important. So I hope you'll bear with me for just a few more moments as we call out some of the key folks who have made today possible for us. So first of all, our development team. You've heard reference to a couple of them so far. So Joe Booth with JMBA Architects, who has been our partner now on several projects, and as you heard from Maria, just on the spot, redesigning when it was needed, and coming up with some beautiful space that you're going to see in just a few moments. John Curtis with Curtis Construction Company. We were so pleased to partner with John at the last minute as our original contractor was unable to launch the project with us last summer. And John's company stepped in and is the reason why we're here and occupied today. We also have MB Management, who is our property management company, who has been a wonderful addition to our team this year with Acushnet Commons and now also with Ingraham Place. And then, of course, Wales, as we were just talking about that, just their preservation work here is unmatched. So that's our development team. You've also heard about some of our funders who have made this project possible today. Some of the ones we have not yet mentioned are Carlisle Tax Credit Advisors, who is our federal tax credit investor, Dorfman Capital, who is our state tax credit, historic tax credit investor. We have the Life Initiative here with us today, who is our construction bridge lender. And then just a special call out for CDAC, who is the start of many projects here in Massachusetts. Anne would be probably the first one to say that she'll pick up the phone and say, Bill, got a project idea to run past you. And first of all, Bill Bronner, who has been our supporter for years, takes that call, talks us through pros and cons, and then jumps behind us and supports us every step of the way, and usually with the first dollars in to make this possible. So Bill, both you and your organization mean so much to us, and thank you so much for that. We also have Sony Gupta here today, who is the Executive Director of Home Funders, and Home Funders was part of the acquisition loan that we obtained when we were able to acquire the property from the city. And they are such an integral part also of many other programs, including Acushnet Commons for us. And Sony, thank you so much. She's a longtime colleague of ours as well, and a former project manager too, so she knows what goes into this, and she is just a wonderful addition at our state level for projects like this. And so we also have 4 private contributors who also has allowed us to do a little bit more with Ingraham Place than we might have been able to otherwise. The Franklin Square House Foundation was our first contribution in, even before we started construction. Charles Bank Homes, the Helena Rubenstein Foundation is actually tomorrow going to have their playground be installed here on the other side of the property. You'll get to see where that's going in, and unfortunately 24 hours after today for that. And then also CCRI through Mass Housing, a critical grant to assist with our services and also some of the program space that you'll see downstairs in a few moments. So what an amazing team of people who have made this possible, and organizations that do this every day but don't often hear that we recognize how hard it is to stay in there and make these happen. And we just can't thank you enough. We also just really quickly have a couple of special folks that we just wanted to call out individually. They represent their organizations and their jobs, but just as people, they also mean so much to us. You've heard Pat Sullivan get mentioned over and over again today, and what a wonderful representative of the city and an amazing part of your staff, Mayor. There are many times that Pat will be in his office and Ann will just come walking on in. and Pat never hesitates to sit down and work through an issue and help us find the solution for it. Kurt James from Rackman, Sawyer and Brewster is here, our project counsel, who, boy, does he have a job on a relatively smaller project with many layers and many funding sources that he had to help us make all work. Kurt, you've been a great supporter of ours for too many years to count, and we thank you so much. So we also, goodness, have our accountants who make it all possible, our DHCD staff who takes care of us during construction even beforehand, and I believe we might have 1 or 2 of them here today, and thank you so much for what you do. But so then that brings us to the person that you've heard over and over and over again referenced throughout every speech that we've had today. And is that a surprise? Of course not. And so before going there, and there's an over-under, by the way, on whether or not I can make it through this. Before I go there, I just want to reference the person that this building was originally named for, as well as who we carry on today with the name of Ingraham Place. As you may have read in your program, Robert Ingraham was the first librarian here in New Bedford. And as you read some of the archives about him, what an amazing man, so committed to this community, revered by this community. And we are so honored to carry his name forward in this property. And as I read through every single part of that, every single one of those words applied to Ann Gelspan as well. There is so much of her love and sweat and blood and tears in this community, in this project. And there's just nothing you can say about her, right? You've heard it all throughout the day. But as some of you may know, for 10 years we've been hearing that Ann was going to retire, but apparently that time has actually come, and in the near future Ann will be retiring from over 2 decades of service in this field. And there's just nothing that I can say beyond the fact that everything that the Women's Institute stands for and what we've been recognized for has Ann's name attached to it. Projects that we've been nationally recognized for are hers. Ones that have received local acclaim and have had beautiful stories come out of them and the families they have served. Again, they have Ann's name on them. And there's just nothing that can be said for someone who gives so much of herself and never asks for anything in return. So, Maria, do you want to join me for a second? Yeah. Ann, please come on.
And on behalf of North Star and the board, I wanted to say that I wish you nothing but the best. In your retirement, you have become a mentor and a friend to me. And thank you for believing in the work that we do. I truly, truly appreciate you, and I'm going to miss you, and I'm going to hound you at home. Yeah. And Thank you. Thank you. You're not going to say anything? No. She says, welcome, everyone.
And that was for you. As you can see, look at everyone who holds you in such high regard. On the lighter side, though, just for anyone who's willing to help, Ann's husband Ross is with us today, and he's a little concerned about what it means for Ann to retire. So anytime you need us to get her out of the house, you let us know, okay? So I would just like to close today, once again thanking all of you for coming out today and inviting you downstairs for refreshments and a tour of this wonderful new building with new life to it. But then also just to give you a couple of final thoughts. One is, as you go into the North Star Learning Center part of the ground floor, you're going to see this amazing mural of color in the swirl, and there's a photo of it in the program book, as you'll see today. What a wonderful way to bring everything that this building has meant together. What you will see are actually discs of color which are cut from books. And so the librarian for which the school was named for, we now have books that are on the wall and will be immortalized through that in a room for children. And once again, we'll have their voices and their laughter ringing through this entire building. And how perfect could that be? And so I would also just ask each of you to continue your call to action with us, that affordable housing and ending homelessness still remains a huge issue for each and every one in our communities, in our state, and in our country, and that our work is not done, and hopefully with the senators' help and the mayors and with the congressmen and so many more, that we will continue to make the advancements like we have today. And unless there is anything else, Ann, I would, on behalf of all of our partners, North Star, Southeast Regional, the Neighborhood Housing Services, and South Shore, as well as all of you, just to say thank you and wish you a wonderful afternoon and a wonderful tour inside.
In the event of a car crash, 3 out of 4 kids are not as secure as they should be because their car seats are not used correctly. But the latch system makes it easier to get it right and to hold your kids tight. Anchor, tether, latch. Learn more at safercar.gov.
Happy birthday, dear Corinne. Happy birthday to you.
Your choice to recycle can affect more people than you think. Call Marissa at 508-979-1493 to request your free recycling bins. This message was brought to you by the City of New Bedford and UMass Dartmouth Charlton School of Business.
Honey, the credit fairy doesn't exist.
What?
It's make-believe. Nobody left anything under your pillow.
If there's no credit fairy, then we'll make our credit score go up.
We will, by doing things like paying our bills on time.
There's no magic to improving your credit, but there's help, and it's free. Go to creditfairy.org.
What?
Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys are much too much. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We're gonna beat them and bust them. Beat them.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Let's get a little bit rowdy. R-O-W-D-Y.
Take time to be a dad
One more
today.
time. Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys.
No matter where you live, life in the ocean depends on you. Do your part to help protect it. Recycle and dispose of your trash properly. To learn what you can do, go to keepoceansclean.org.